Holly and I went together to see James Gillen at Sky Ranch, where it's like UFO Central, and we were driving up there together, and to see Laura Eisenhower and Dr. Dream, and when we were driving up there, my GPS, we passed Shasta, and I said, Holly, let's ask for something to be shown to us, because you have to ask to receive, and let's see what happens. Then I forgot about it, even though it was a couple minutes. All of a sudden, I couldn't understand why my GPS was telling me to turn off, exit. And I was like, Holly, what's exit? There's nothing here. What's going on here? And so she goes, remember we asked. And I said, you're right, they can hack into the GPS. And so she goes, let's go, let's see where they're taking us. So I said, you're right. So we take off, we go down the ramp, it takes us under the freeway, and it's a dead end. And all you can do is turn left and go back the opposite direction on 5, south on 5. Just as we looked at each other, we saw this big, bright UFO go whoosh, whoosh. And it was like, we looked at each other and said, yeah! We were so excited. And we were just talking about, she said, I don't have any UFO experience. You want me on the UFO panel? Well, this is her UFO experience. It was awesome. And so I'm just curious, how many people in the room, there were other people that entered that had a UFO experience. And it really doesn't matter whether you do or not. It's if you're open and believe. And because many of my friends, and even my wife, she says, it's impossible. We have seen them by now. And, well, haven't you? You can see evidence, UFO technology that they've left. We don't have the knowledge to build a pyramid. Our biggest crane can't lift one of those stones. We can't cut some of these stones, as he was saying in these early lectures. How in the world do they do this? I mean, not even UFO technology. The Middle Easterners know how to build a mosque with tile on the underneath of the dome. We don't have that technology here in America because we don't know how fast the cement dries and the tiles don't stay and they fall. So it's a high level of math. And you go into any university and you'll see the engineers are Asian and Iranian and Middle Eastern, because what math you were taught in school is what survived the Alexandrian library fire. And the Baghdad library didn't burn. And that's why you see a lot of engineers and Persian engineers, is because they know the shortcuts, the mathematics. Everything is numbers. And with you just using numbers, you can figure out unity in God. The Mayans using 0 and 1 and then computer language, and it's very deep. So when you start to question life, who are we from, where we come from, it's very important, because who are we and what are they keeping from us? What's the big secret? So there are signposts that have been left for us. And in this panel, I hope to uncover some of these markers after we introduce our panel. We have since we had so many cancellations, that was my taster aperitif to get your palate ready for the panel. And we are so lucky to have Mark Walsh come from Holly's husband. And yes, because Holly wants to rest and watch her husband up here, and that's great. He's ready to just come off the freeway and step in to roll. So I'll be tagging you on the pictures. So tell me a little about yourself, Mark.
What would you like to know? My name is Mark Walsh. I've been interested in UFOs, I think, since I was about 12 when I had my first sighting. I think I got really into studying them when I was about 16. And ever since, I've been, watching the skies, and I think today, myself and Holly, we've seen well over 100. The cool thing about it is all you have to do is, want to see them or ask to see them, and you will. So it's been a passion, and after a lot of research, I think I have a really good understanding, and definitely somewhat of a relationship, I guess. I think it's very exciting to know that there's so many different ETs out there. This is an exciting time to be involved in this too. It's really great.
And my favorite.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience. My name's Laurie McDonald. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I work in the abduction phenomena, also a researcher. I enjoy psychologically profiling extraterrestrials so that if you do find yourself with one, you'll know the appropriate way to act. There's a protocol. They don't think the same way that we do since they are hive-minded. And I run the Sacramento Alien Abduction and Contactee Support Group.
My name is Jose Manique Munoz. I'm a messenger for the Mayan tribes, the Cherokee tribes. And to us, alien technology and intergalactic time and space travelers are real, as I see all of you here. Thank you for coming.
Hi guys, I'm Bret Lueder. I'm author of a UFO Hunter's Guide. I'm a journalist. I've written about 700 articles in 15 different publications. I've currently been writing for Phenomena magazine online. Anyone familiar with Phenomena magazine? Really good magazine for online. And I've got a couple really big articles coming out. I'll bore you all more with my stuff later.
My name is Alan Bedian, and I'm generally a full-time knowledge seeker, where I absorb all the information I can from every source, every modality, every type of, conspiracy that's going on out there. And once I look for an answer, I find it. And UFOs, I question like, okay, what's going on? And the last 10, 20 years, I've been seeking as much as I can, finding as many answers and putting the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, doing the pattern recognition, and figuring out the correlations between what they're doing with us, how we got to deal with them, and the agenda of both the dark and the light, and figure out what our place is in the universe.
I think that's a great cross-section panel, and we're going to deal with the topic of shape-shifting aliens, reptilians, or whatever. If you ever felt, my question to the panel is, have you ever had an experience where you thought this person was not human? You looked at them and there was no way that they're human. And because a couple times I've seen people shift in front of me and I see scales on their nose and then their eyes switch to the slits. And then I get, whoa, And and I'm like, and then they realize that they're shifting, and I'm seeing it because people don't see it. But if you go to YouTube and type in shape-shifting reptilians, you'll see a lot of different newscasters on Fox usually, and a lot of and then Hillary and a lot of presidents and yeah. So have you ever seen an alien baby, or have you ever? We'll go down the. Just people that look different. They say, oh, look, here's our new baby. And you look at the baby, it's like, whoa. And you're trying to hold a straight face, Because, everybody thinks their baby is cute. So have you ever seen some kind of non-human on the planet?
I actually believe that there's a lot of clones out there that look human, that act human, but they're programmed automatons that are pretty much soulless, where they were created by certain extraterrestrial race on multiple timelines, on multiple parallel realities, that these clones, even of us, exist in those parallel places that they've been manufacturing and using pretty much as a power source. And so I observe certain people that you just know they are not real. They don't have much going on. They're good workers. They have a standard program routine that's pretty advanced, but they're not human, and they were alien created, and they serve some purpose, but not to our reality.
In my experience, I haven't actually seen any of this. I've watched all the YouTube videos, so I know what you guys are talking about. But my experiences are more in the form of feelings. and being in contact with somebody who's a really dark person and having that just strike right through you. That's happened many times, and it's led me, some friends of mine actually are coming forward and asking me for help with weird abductions or possible possessions. And so what's going on? Is this whole thing with good and evil really true? Is that what's really going on, a battle between good and evil? And I tend to think that it is, and we're at the center of it, humans. I wish I could see some of those reptilians because I think it'd be pretty cool. But I can't honestly say that I have, so.
I come in contact with them all the time. One of my jobs as a Mayan messengers, I do the Mayan astrology, and it is through that method that I find them. And I'm seeking them out, and we're having a close contact, if you will, with them through translations, and through the Mayan astrology we find them. We sort them out whether they are doing good for humanity or not, and there's a lot more stuff going on with that reptilian world, underworld.
I have seen many different types of extraterrestrials. I've had a lot of face-to-face, eye-to-eye contact with the short grays, tall grays. I've seen a small blue. And once during a session, I was regressing somebody to relive an experience, and we had got back to the appropriate time, and my cameras were running, and we were recording it, and I heard a strange sound. It's sort of difficult to describe. And when I looked at him, I did see a shift. And when I went to look again, my camera went off, my backup camera went off, and I lost all recording ability, cell phone and 2 cameras. So I think that he was shifting into reptilian. And I believe that a lot of people can have entity attachment for different reasons. I see in my own private practice as a hypnotherapist an increase in people who claim ETs as their own. My ETs told me this, my ETs told me that. That's possession. No, we're possessing them. With that type of energy, we're creating a type of contact with them, but that contact is also contractual. When we put our energy out there and we're claiming them, they have the opportunity then to possess us. I don't think that most of the extraterrestrial presence on our planet is to serve our highest purpose. I believe the majority of them are self-serving, and although there are altruistic entities, they generally don't interfere.
I'd have to say I'm in the same boat as Bret. I have never seen anybody actually shift, but I've been in the presence of people that you could tell that there's just something wrong with them. You know, they seem soulless, like you don't sense any kind of love or compassion coming from them. It's like, well, how can you exist like that without having any form of love and compassion? What is it? What's the source of your soul? Also being a shamanic practitioner and learning the way of the Caro, I have done entity extraction. So I have seen people that held that dark energy, whether it be extraterrestrial or different origin. Could be other type of attachments. So it's definitely prevalent. It's definitely out there, and I think it's really exciting to see how many people are starting to realize this and how many people are actually dealing with it and clearing them. And it's really cool to see that happen. But yeah, there is quite a bit in my experience.
That's great. Just to hear, Laurie, to talk about. We're so lucky to have Laurie here. Okay, I hope you appreciate that. Okay, and it's amazing that we recognize what we do, and Jose too. Working with everybody. We're lucky to have everybody here, but Jose to work with them directly. You do have to ask for the experience, and hope you have to ask for a good one. So. And it's true, and there's rules, and we live in the free will universe, and if you don't want, they can't break that law. If you don't want, you're not going to leave your window open. Don't invite them. Don't leave your windows open, and remember to shout, Jesus, because it really works. Whether you believe it or not, whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever. So there are ways. Or just hold the love vibration. Shine bright. You know, the archons hate that. So I work for the reptilians. I watched my boss, before he retired, shapeshift right in front of me. He asked me what was on my screen. I had a Tesla antimatter space destroyer, and he was shocked that I knew what it was. And I watched him shift when I told him. And he retired early after that. He left a short time after that. And then, so what made you interested? What got you interested in this field? What made you interested? Because, you know, you can be ostracized. You know, tell people about you. It's getting better now, more common knowledge, and many more people believe in UFOs than God, even. You know, so it's really becoming current. But what brought you? What triggered your, interest? Yes, in this field. What piqued your interest in this field?
I'd have to say what got my interest. I was probably about 12 years old, and I was on a week-long camp. First time I did camp away from the parents, and we were playing with our flashlights in the tent. We got in trouble, and one of the scouts came up, and we were sitting outside, and he asked to come sit on the rocks and look at the stars, and he was showing us constellations. And I remember looking up, and I said, "Oh, look, a shooting star," but then it stopped. And we all like, "Well, what's that? Shooting stars don't stop." And we're all just looking. Like, well, what's it going to do? And then before we know it, kind of did a little zigzag and then took off when we saw, you know, the burst. That's what started it for me. And
How long ago was that?
let's see, I was 12. I'm 51. But ever since then, though, I've really been interested. And I think when I got more into my teens, when I was about 16, 17, I had another experience where I saw some lights in the sky. And, you know, ever since then, that I've always known in my heart that, you know, we weren't the only ones, and there was other stuff out there. And I started reading books when I was pretty young, and, you know, my parents took me to see Chariots of the Gods when it came out. So I've always been around this information. It was always available to me, and I was really hungry for it at a very young age. And I think what really got me into the real studying of it is probably right after I met my wife, Holly. One of her clients, you know, was really into it too, and he shared some information with us, and it got me into reading books early on, the Adamski days, and I went and I sought out and I found the Adamski books and read all of them, and that pretty much started my knowledge of, you know, what was going on with UFOs from the past, because I wanted to know, you know, what was going on from back then up to current, and what happened when we had those type of extraterrestrials when they were humanoid, and then where did the grays come in? What happened? And so there's definitely a lot of information out there, and I've been a sponge ever since. So that
Great,
was it.
thank you. Laurie, what piqued your interest to get into UFOs? Besides being
Well, I think I was born into it from the time that I was very young. I think at the age of 3, my grandmother would find me in the backyard, and any time of night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, 11, didn't matter. And I would be staring at the sky because I felt drawn to it. I always believed I could feel this magnificent presence just out of my range of view. And I felt like the sky was alive, just like a tree or just like a person. Felt a really beautiful thing. And it continued. In fact, by the time I was 10, I had turned my bedroom window into a grid, and with a handful of tacks and string, I began to chart planets as they moved through particular constellations, and understood that there was a larger reality than I was learning in school. It eventually turned into the UFO phenomena. Of course, I had seen entities prior to that, but I didn't associate them with anything like a UFO or an alien. I'm not sure if that was in my verbiage at the time. I just accepted them as they were. But when I was about 6, I wandered away from the carnival that we were at in the evening with a couple of extraterrestrials, and I couldn't tell if I was brought underground or somewhere, but they handed me an orb of energy, and they placed it into my hands, and I would think in terms of color, and it would change. And I later learned that they're testing our ability to work with energy for their own reasons, of course. But I think it started with orange, but orange is very interesting color to them, and it is to humans as well. It indicates a lot of different things. But so it started very early, and it's clearly progressed.
My interest started when I heard the story of my elders. As a Mayan keeper, you grow up knowing that you came from the stars through the Pleiadian portals. And when they told me that the Tibetan ancient elders, they also came from a different portal into this planet. And the Hopi also have the same creation story, that we came through different portals. So it really sparked my curiosity. If there's 3 of us, different cultures that have come from the stars, there must be 3 million others that we haven't really even started to talk about. So that sparked my curiosity.
Excellent comment.
I could listen to you all day, man.
Me
I bet
too.
You've got some great stories. But for me, like Mark, my parents took me to see Church of the Gods when I was really young. And the interesting thing about that for me was we had some relatives in town, and we were going to Olin Mills to take a family portrait with all the relatives, right? And so me being a little smart-ass little kid, as we were getting called into the studio, I ran up to the water bottle and went down and opened the thing to take a drink and accidentally hit the hot. And so it scalded down the side. And then later we went and saw Chariots of the Gods, so it was almost like that was being ingrained into my brain at that time. And so when I was young, you know, I saw Out on a Limb with Shirley MacLaine, Legend of Bogey Creek, In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy was huge for me. And then I really forgot about it, maybe say after the age of 10, until I was midway through my journalism degree at Chico State University, about 8 hours north of here in the Central Valley. And I had some soccer buddies. I played soccer for Chico State. Before they came to play on the team, they were civilian employees on Vandenberg Air Force Base. They were like architects or engineers or something. And so after college, they went back and got their old jobs back. Well, one of my buddies gives me a call and says, hey, you know, a coworker with a higher security clearance came and told me that if I went and punched in this little code, this document would come out, and it talks about aliens and all this stuff. And so he really lit me up like a candle. So I went down on a road trip, saw some relatives. On the way back, I stopped in Santa Barbara, and he takes me on a tour of Vandenberg Air Force Base. And so I got to see the North Base and the South Base, and they didn't know who I was. You know, they checked my ID at the gate. I didn't think anything of it, but my friend says they're going to do a total background check on you. They want to know exactly who's on the base at every time. So as we're, just as an example of how weird this was, we're out on Point Aguelos. You guys know that little kind of nipple that sticks out on California? The whales have to swim around to go down to Santa Barbara. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and I decided to take a leak, right? No big deal. He's like, no, don't do that. They're watching us from that tower. See back that peak over there? They're watching everything we do. So I thought that was kind of weird, but I didn't think anything of it. But this packet that I got from him turned out to be a pre-Behold the Pale Horse kind of a synopsis, like an affidavit signed by Milton William Cooper. And I think it's actually William Milton Cooper, but it was Milton William Cooper. I wound up showing that later to Stanton Friedman. He said that was a hoax. Whatever the case was, it introduced me to the idea that Kennedy was assassinated was a total setup, that Jesus was a hologram, stuff like that, okay? So I'm coming back from Santa Barbara. I hit if you guys are familiar with the freeways in California, you hit 505 cutoff to get up to I-5 instead of drive perpendicular out to Sacramento and then up. It's like the hypotenuse of the triangle. The last exit on 505 is Road 14 in Zamora. I always stop there to maybe go to the bathroom, maybe take a nap if I'm tired. Well, on this particular occasion, it was at night. I rolled to the end of the pavement, and then it's a dirt road going to the little town of Zamora. And what am I doing again? I'm taking a leak. So I went to the back of my truck, I'm taking a leak, and I look up, and there's a lot of that going on, right? A lot of water. But innocently, I just look up and I see this light, and it's dancing around like a pencil tip if you're scribbling on a piece of paper, doing circles back. And I thought, wow, man, that's probably one of those UFOs I heard about. Hey, cool. Oh, shit. And then I peed on myself and realized I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I better get the hell out of there because I've read a Whitley Strieber book or two by then. And I'm like, oh, my God, I don't want to be. So I hit the road. There's a big, long, arcing on-ramp that goes on to I-5 North. And as I'm going on this on-ramp, I see the light following me up the freeway. So I was kind of freaked out. I stopped at the rest stop in Artois, and I got eucalyptus tree groves there. And it was a really windy night. And next thing you know, I'm parked heading towards the freeway, facing toward the freeway, and the trees parted, and there's this light looking through two rest stop eucalyptus tree groves. And so I'm freaking out at this point. I'm going to drive to my buddy's house, John, who I know is the only guy that's going to understand. I never made it to his house, and I decided to head back to Chico when I noticed I was running out of gas. You can draw your own conclusions, but that's what got me into it.
I want to just make sure, was there lost time and lost gas?
You can draw your own conclusions. I don't know.
I believe.
Yeah, so I've always been a science fiction junkie. Like, since I was 3-4 years old, I would watch every science fiction TV show, movie, and a lot of them total propaganda, total just, mess of, tragedy and drama, and totally made up, nothing based on actual fact, but they still get people's imaginations flowing, So lately, I've been noticing more and more of the movies and TV shows and the media ecology has been a lot more accurate, where they're putting quite a few hints and very blatant facts within a lot of these shows hidden. Most people just assume it's just good writing, but really it's the truth slowly coming out to the public while they're easing people in. So where my interest really got piqued, despite the whole Trekkie type of stuff, is in college during numerous psychedelic experiences. Where I witnessed firsthand, more non-physical entities. And really my interest in UFOs now is more in the non-physical variety, the light beings, more than the physical ones that I think are of the dark, or neutral. So I've witnessed a lot of these, what Terence McKenna would call the self-transforming machine elves. It is the best description that you could possibly have for them, where it's like these trickster entities that are all around us in that non-physical, invisible space that observe, that play, that create synchronicities, that are our helpers. When you need a parking spot, what goes out there and finds your request and makes that parking spot clear in the right time. They're those elves that are out there going to do things for us, and it's awesome. So I think we're witnessing a lot more of those non-physical entities that are here to assist us in our transformation. And I think that's what their ultimate goal is to see us ascend, to see us grow and get past the little man syndrome and get into the big man godness. And that's really what they're the ones that matter, that we should be focusing on, rather than the ones that want to hurt us and keep us in fear. That's their agenda, to bring us to the light and to usher us towards evolution.
That's beautiful. Keep going with this one. Why do you think they're coming here? What's going on here?
I think they realize how important humans are. I think that humans are far more advanced than a lot of those extraterrestrials are. They might have had more time in their creation of whatever technologies, but in terms of species that are connected on a spiritual realm, I think that they're coming here because they're curious what us gods are going to do next. They're jealous of our power, so to speak. You got the Greys that are, studying us to use our genetics to create their species, or to, increase their own, advancement within the arts and music and all of the subjects. And I think that humans were part of the factor that created this entire universe.
So altruistic.
Where our spirits, created the words and imagined a universe that's infinite to exist, therefore it had to exist out of the non-physical space.
So they're coming here to be with good intentions, altruistic intentions to do good. Thank you.
Some of them.
Some of them, yes.
You know, we're in a spiritual crisis. We've lost touch with who we are, many individuals, of course, and collectively as a society. I think the good ones, if there are good ones out there, and I really like to think that there are, I don't know that there are, but I'd like to think that there are. It's a good thought. They came to try to help us first by just directly contacting us. Hey, here we are. This is what we're offering you. Let's help you. You guys, if you're honest with yourselves, you'll realize what we're offering you is good. And we rejected that offer. We tried to shoot their ships down with our missiles. We inadvertently took them down with radar. We ridiculed the contactees and basically told them that we didn't care about your message. So that left the door open, you know, because our frequency was not in line with the creator, with the source. Our frequency's all over the map, so we're attracting a wide variety of things that really are not for us. I don't know if really good and evil is a great way to do it. It's a simplistic description. But it's you know, we're just not in line with what we're supposed to be doing, and therefore we're attracting some stuff that's really not good. So they're here right now because we're in a spiritual crisis. So whatever reason that is that took us to get us here, we have to own it ourselves and do the work. And when we own our own power, we will attract the right things. And you know, until we get back on that path, I think we're heading for a big test. I think the Pope has something to do with it. He's already admitted there's an ET savior. They've known this for a long time. So they're basically just coming out and saying, we've been lying to you for hundreds of years, but still, we represent God, right? That's a total joke. So I think the more we individually get our houses in order and be good people, you know, whatever we individually think that is do good to other people, I think we're going to be okay. Until we get enough people to do that, that's a little iffy.
Thank you.
From our histories, and that is 66,000 years that we've been counting time in the Mayan tribes. That was then when the Atlantis continent went into the ocean, and 32,000 humans went into space in starships. So to us, they are coming back to help us. They are human in a human flesh. They are highly evolved, and that's just one of the ones that are walking through us. This, as I said earlier, there must be 3 million. It's just a number. 3 million different kinds of realms and entities, whatever you want to call them, angels, extraterrestrials, intraterrestrials. But they are real. They're here. They're coming to help, but they're also coming to do some damage. So having said that, there is something that humans should be aware of, and that's parasitic energetics. This is something that is real. It needs to be out there in the general population. We are lucky. We all know this here. That's why we're here. But there is billion people in the planet, 8 billion people in the planet. We need to make people aware of things like this that are actually real. They are happening. So they're here to do both, good and bad.
Yes.
As we know it.
No doubt about it.
Right. It depends on which extraterrestrial we're talking about. There are trillions probably, because in every place there's consciousness, and where there's consciousness there's life. The ones that interfere are not here to help us. I think the ones that are coming here are here to help themselves. The Earth is a garden planet. It's in a series of garden planets. We are still young. We're still in the process of evolving. There are many indigenous cultures around the world who claim to have lost their civilization to the stars. The Anasazi is also one who believe that every one of their people simultaneously disappeared. They came from the Chaco Canyons in our southwest, New Mexico area. So some people do think that. But the extraterrestrials that we see come here are in droid form, or a lot of the ones that claim to be Pleiadians can actually be reptilians, since they are able to shapeshift. I think that they can tap into our core belief system and appear however we think they should look. Whatever is most acceptable to our consciousness is how they'll appear. There are some people who see them as they are, but anyone that's coming like a thief in the night and not being clear and not asking permission and not having a respectful relationship and not here to help us, those would be the whole gray alignment. They have an agenda. We believe the agenda is to infiltrate the planet Earth, possibly through terraforming to allow them to live here. We see changes happening in our air, water, food, making it more difficult for the human race to process these things. Everything that we took as natural, as our natural resources, are being restricted from us. Things like rainwater, things like sunshine are being blocked out by chemtrails. So we see that they're coming here for a reason. And the reason is for them. But we do have enormous power. When we can begin to see what and who we are, we can tap into our human potential, we can unfold, and we can do what's right. But we can't do that until we look at the reality of the situation and see the ones that are coming here and then stop them. The problem is that they're technically more advanced than us, and so they can hurt us. The ones that do come as a light or energetic being, they don't come in a ship or a craft. They can cross any space or time. It's not necessary. You know, a human coming back is very possible to assist the race if they feel that that was necessary. But remember, we're in the third dimension in a fixed time state. We don't generally move or project that much forward into the future. That doesn't happen until we reach the fifth dimension. Time is fixed in both the third and fourth, and much, much slower. When we look at that in terms of time, it's very hard for most people to comprehend the existence of time. It's only when you experience the fifth dimension that there's that lack of time and space is extraordinarily expansive inside of us. Then we begin to see what we're capable of doing. But the extraterrestrials that are on our planet right now are usually or most likely in alignment with our governments.
An excellent answer. Sorry, Mark. Why are they coming here? It's kind of a trick question, but why are they coming here? Here to Earth.
Well, in my perspective, in my belief, we are a spiritual being in a 3D experience. We chose this experience. And what we're coming to find out is we are in control of this experience as well. And as we start tapping more into our own selves, our true selves, we start to realize that we are way more powerful than we've ever been told. There's a reason for that. And I think we're at the point where the scales are tipping. I do agree that there's an agenda, but I also believe that we have the ability to keep that from manifesting. Because, as there are different dimensions, there are different timelines, different outcomes. And as we start to awaken as a species and learn our true abilities, there's no real way that the dark can still have any kind of power or control over us. We have to claim our sovereignty as a spiritual being and hold our power and not hold any place of fear and not be fooled by media, all the years of brainwashing, religions, schools, all of that was done for a reason, and that is to control us. And I think we're at that point right now where people are starting to realize this. That's why we're here. This is what this is all about. This is the time for our awakening. And the planet as well. The planet is going through an ascension as well. And we have to stay aligned with that and know in your hearts, your spiritual body, that we're going through a shift. And I think as long as we hold on to that feeling, hold the light, hold the love of what's going on, we're going to make it through this regardless of the dark agendas. Yes, they're here, but they can't hold any power over us unless we give in to that fear.
Excellent. That's another empowering answer, because you are powerful. You just have to wake up to your power and feel it, hold it, grasp it, learn. That was kind of a trick question. Why do they come? Are they coming here? Because we all think that they come from outer space, and And then, my wife says, well, how could they travel from, so far away and this and, it's impossible, I say, well, you're thinking in third dimensional aspects, of time, because in the higher dimensions, there's an eternal now, and there are wormholes that you can travel through and go through great amounts of space. There's shortcuts through the universe, and a lot of aliens have never left, like Laurie said, So it's kind of a trick question because they're still here, and there's a hollow earth, and then the Tibetans. I've seen some pictures of their head priests, and they weren't human. I've seen the photos of the alien leaders, or head Buddha or whatever they call themselves. So it was a trick question, and it's also about time and space, and then there's also the aspect of good and bad. Are they, well, some of them are good, but they don't have emotions, so they don't, so they're just running tests on you, and they're not sensitive to feeling and compassion and love, which is what they're really, so a lot of them are here to learn from us. And so what do you think about that, all that, throwing all that more into the same question? What do you think about them being already here, and that's what, so I just wanted to do the same question again, but with more facets and variables, aspects.
Because I think they also want to be here to see the unfolding. They are here for an experience as we are. But we're here for the grand experience because we're the ones that are truly living this out with more unknowns. They know what's going on. We don't. But we are beginning to.
Right.
And they are here to see this experience. I imagine there was probably a waiting list to be here at this time as a soul reincarnate.
Definitely. We chose here and now.
This is one of the most important times to be here.
It is, in the universe.
And we have a large audience.
We do.
There's the huge, if you can think about how many ETs are
beyond.
out there right now. Why did we cancel the space
How many
program?
type
Probably
M
because of
planets like
drunks in
Earth
the way.
that there's life? Exactly.
So, yeah, I think this is very much an experience on multiple levels for multiple different types of ETs.
And see, and then throwing in there, I guess I want to say some of them are coming here for themselves, some of them are coming here for us, because they see that some of them were genetically our parents that genetically manipulated us, or maybe we're a combination of 20-something different types of aliens, and they're looking at us as their children, and maybe they're coming here to get gold for their planet because they need a space or a body. They ruin their soul. They need your body. So there are many different aspects. I just was looking for more.
Well, I think they really want to see what path we take as a species.
Right, and whether
because we are at that
saving.
tipping point, and as we start to awaken, it opens up, this other timeline. Which, my belief is, that we are following that because, just from information that I've heard, I can't prove it, but that things were supposed to happen. There's been a lot of things, prophecies that never came to pass because those were on a different timeline, and those were more of a dark agenda timeline. We seem to be shifting course. And that really is. This is kind of like what's happening between the dark and the light. And I think as a species, we are starting to choose the light.
Thank you. That's great.
I think that there are more than one agenda, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there are so many different types of aliens, all of them having something to do with the planet Earth, because the planet Earth is actually quite important. A human has the ability to manifest a reality. We can manifest a reality, say, without gray aliens. Where does that leave them? That leaves them locked out of the ability to seep into our consciousness. We can create whatever type of reality that we choose. We can't change the past, not in the third dimension, nor can we project the future. We only have the now. Right here, right now, is the only time that's relevant in this moment. We can't change anything else. We can only deal with what we need to. This is the problem. If the extraterrestrials are coming to the planet, why are they not making themselves known to everybody, educating on a mass level? We know they're capable of doing that. We know that they can seep into our brain waves, slipping in between the beta and the theta wave, creating a dream state. We know that they can make us become compliant. They know that you can get a message from them to go somewhere to be abducted. Although there are not just abductees. We mentioned contactees too. And contactees don't receive information from the main 5 races that come to the planet. Contactees are receiving information from different extraterrestrials. They're getting information that's telling them how to connect and how to make contact correctly, showing us how to bypass. I've been able to create 5 distinct categories of abduction and contact. We're able to see that there are 5 unique experiences that most people have during this. And that way we can tell which extraterrestrials they're dealing with. And then we can use our own information to project at that point what we think they're doing. But it's up to us. We have to become fearless and empowered. They resonate with whatever energy we put out there. There are many universal laws that we have to be aware of, in particularly the laws of likes attract. If you go out there and you're one of those people waving the sign, hey, abduct me, what do you think you're drawing to you? You're going to draw an experience that could leave you traumatized. Because once you open that door, you're inviting everything. So you have to use the appropriate protocol. Whatever extraterrestrials are coming, all of them are just waiting for us to do one thing or the other. Allow them to do what they want, or for us to stand up and become more involved with it, either work together or know that we'll have to work separately. But when they're coming and we don't know, and we're supposed to believe, though we made this contract in some previous life, our soul did that, we're supposed to accept that. I would say that maybe it's time we get a soul attorney. I mean, because I would like to review what exactly I said that I did and have conscious recollection of it before I'm held to it. That only seems logical and fair. It seems sort of like a blanket sweep to just accept that. And when we accept that without really thinking it through, once again, we're giving them permission to do whatever. Oh, I agreed on a soul level. Well, I am the soul, and this is my level, and this is me right now. So if I'm going to make that agreement, it either needs to be reiterated or changed. So they're here for lots and lots of reasons, and many of them. And yes, of course, it was a trick question.
Yes.
So that court of love does exist. That's one of the ceremonies we perform as the Mayan Tibetan Hopi teachings. Is we bring all of those past and future contracts into the court of law of the universe, and we present our case. It's a simple ceremony, but we've been doing that for 66,000 years. Probably furthermore in the past time. That's just my tribe, my mother's tribe. We do have that ceremony. I wanted to bring the attention back to the fact that they never left.
Exactly.
You said that, and that is a fact. Myself went to the Colossal Cave in Arizona 2 days ago to deliver a message to the, we call them intraterrestrials. There's many different species down there.
Please repeat that.
Intraterrestrials.
Intraterrestrials.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. I just want to say it correctly.
Yes, they're underneath us. So we went to the caves because if you want to have communication with the underworld, that is the place to go. You go to a cave as down as you can. In our case, we went 3 miles down with the help of a guide. Arizona, Colossal Caves. Yes.
Colossal caves.
Yeah. Yes, in fact, there's a group of scientists that before they came up with that calendar for the next 26,000 years, they actually went underneath the lake for 29 days with communication, allegedly. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to say, in fact, it happened. But they had communication also with reptilians, you guys call it here in North America? Yeah. You went down 3 miles? 2 days ago, yes. There's
Carefully.
there's a path already there. It's not the first time it's been done for thousands and thousands of years. No, there is actually electricity now. You can go all the way down, and then, of course, once you're down to that tipping point, then it's up to you to keep going or not, depending how well you get along with the beings up there. No, we went to deliver a message to the intraterrestrials, and it is appealing for, it is now not world peace anymore. We're working with intergalactic peace. That's the message. In fact, today, according to the new calendar, is the best day to communicate with our brothers and sisters from the space. There's no mistake that we're here today. It's the day of the starseed children.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent information.
Again, how am I supposed to follow that? My Lord. Right. Yeah, get some strategy going. Look, why are the aliens here? That's a multi-tiered tricky question, because if they're an alien, by definition, then they're not from Earth. So if they're already here, then they're Earthlings. For example, if you guys study the work of John Rhodes, he maintains that this is the reptilians' planet. We came after them. And if you've listened to, say, the Lacerta tapes on YouTube, they're claiming that that's their planet, if that stuff's real. So why did the aliens come here if they're even aliens? No one even, who says they're really aliens? I've been fascinated with this whole dark side thing from some of the experiences that I've had with some people, mostly women. And I'm exploring this whole demon. Yeah, I seem to date them. I know how to pick them. I don't know. But this whole idea of a jinn or a demon being a race of beings that were on the earth before the humans got here, and that the presence of the humans pushed them out, and this has really ticked them off for thousands and thousands of years. And so they're trying to, get back at us in whatever way, like a jilted lover or something, or if you just moved into the really cool apartment and the guy that had to move out's really pissed or something. So I think what's going on is they've been blocked by universal laws or God laws or something from coming back here. So this whole abduction phenomena can be seen through the lens of a demonology, because they're trying to create bodies that they can inhabit back in this realm and then take this realm back over. Sounds fantastical. When I first got into UFO research, I would never even go to the fundamentalist area except for this one experience I had. And it brought me to this church in Yuba City called the Church of Glad Tidings. Before they had this big experience, I'm going to briefly tell you, they were called the Church of Good Times, right? Because they thought that that's what church people are supposed to do. Go out, take care of the community, and have fun. Just create a family kind of atmosphere. That's great, right? Well, after this experience, their opinion of what a church is supposed to do is to solely cast demons out of people. Otherwise, there's no reason for a church, because it's just like a club. There's many clubs that develop community and family. So anyway, long story short, does everyone know who Anton LaVey is? You guys, okay, Church of Satan. He wrote the Satanic Bible. Really nice guy. He's so nice, he had 2 daughters, and he was preparing them to a series of defilement rituals that were supposedly to prepare the way to give birth to the Antichrist. Really fun stuff. Well, one of his daughters runs away, finds herself at this church, and the church people are totally caught off guard. They don't know what's going on, but Anton LaVey starts coming through her, cursing everybody out. It builds for months and months to Halloween, where she's going to do the last ritual, and Anton LaVey breaks through their protection and takes control of this lady's body, runs out into the street from the safe house she was at. The cops get called. The church people almost get arrested for kidnapping. This whole big drama. So they're distraught now because Anton LaVey's in this girl's body in the back of a police car getting ready to leave, cussing out everybody on the curb she's mine. I have her by contract. I own her. So spiritual contacts are very real. And even the dark side attempts to follow the universal laws. But they'll try to trick us into agreeing. So there's really no full disclosure. So Contracts are dynamic. You can always counter offer no matter what you're doing. But what happened was they gathered 13 people, drove to Grass Valley because they were trying to get the girl to a safe place before midnight so they could perform the ritual. Well, they knew he lived in Grass Valley, so they're taking the girl from Yuba City to Grass Valley. It's about 45 minutes. And so they knew Anton was still out of his body. Well, they made it up close to the compound at some place and started praying to Jesus and saying, because that's what fundamental Christians do, right? And that if this guy is not going to repent, that we want to break his cord, break this guy's cord. They knew he was out of the body. And after a half hour of 13 people fervently praying, this girl comes running out of the house like she just broke free and comes running. They scooped her up, drove her back to Yuba City, praying all night. In the church the next morning, they claim that Anton LaVey's snake came through. It called itself Natch and started cursing everybody out and asking why they killed his guy. And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, apparently moments later, the other daughter of Anton LaVey comes to crying. Why did you kill my dad? And so they didn't even know they killed Anton LaVey, but that's what they claim. They claim to have killed Anton LaVey using the name of Jesus Christ. So as a researcher, I have to raise an eye to that. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I've interviewed Jess Parker. He was one of the guys. He wrote his own book called To Hell with Sarah. It's the best mind control book I've ever read. If you guys can get a copy of it, I would do it. $80 was the cheapest copy I found on Amazon. And it's just one of the best mind control books I've ever read. But long story short, Church of Satan people say he died on November 1st. The church people say, no, he died before midnight on the 31st. So I don't know what really happened, but what's opening up for me, what the universe seems to be showing me, is that there is a fight for our souls, for our consciousness, a global struggle for the control of human consciousness. We're at the center of this thing, but the only thing that's going to stop it, no matter what it is that's going on, is we get ourselves in order. And that's the bottom line. I mean, there's many cultures on the planet that I would say are far more aligned with Source than modern society. And, you know, I don't want to get too racial, but let's just get racial for just a second. I think it's the white race that was vulnerable to whatever kind of attack, and it got taken over by dark force. And it's those magical techniques that have then spread over the globe. You can see this in Hollywood, where it's the Druid tradition that uses Hollywood for their magical wands. That's just one little indication that it was, you know, growing up in school, they never told us that white people were Indians too at one point. That's a very important fact. So you separate a culture from its roots, and now they're much more easily controlled. And so, you know, maybe there is something to this racial thing. I think it's more culture than skin color. And so the racial thing, the skin color thing, is just something to distract us from what's really going on. The issue is us. And whoever participates in modern society needs to help, or they're part of the problem. So let's get ourselves in order. Again, I'm repeating myself a bunch, but really we're the center of this. And if there's a big battle to create bodies for souls to come in here, then let's kick their ass and get them the hell out of here.
Thank you, Bret. Thank you.
So one of my favorite pet research projects that I've been getting really into the last couple of months, actually, is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And so juicy, so poetic and complex, and just confounding in what it's actually saying. So if anybody doesn't know, it was basically written in Atlantean, which was a language that we're basically able to translate through thought in a way, where the symbols are in a certain language that projects the meanings of the words within the translator's brain. And so I've been looking more and more into it, trying to figure out what all these beautiful poetic words are trying to say that no scientist has really been able to figure out. Even the material itself, they have no idea what this thing is made of. They just know that it's imperishable. It can never be destroyed. It's made of this weird atomic structure that's fixed and violates the laws of ionicism. And so what I discovered later on, after doing more channeled research and more like delving into, is that this was actually written 40,000 years in our future from future man. and it started making a lot more sense then when I started seeing the alien, that Thoth, and the whole Atlantis thing hasn't happened yet in our timelines. And this was us that was writing the message in a time capsule to send back to us to learn from, to ascend, to get to where we need to be in preparation for where they want to be. So in a sense, what I fully discovered is that the whole Atlantean era hasn't existed yet. That's coming in the future, Atlantis. Well, but the thing is, for them, time doesn't exist. There's no time, so it's all kind of this weird looping, playground where they can create parallel timelines, alternate futures and pasts, and jump around. So looking into all the monoliths that came in, the pyramids and the other crazy, impossible for man to make structures. Yeah, Stonehenge and all the rest. There's tons that we don't even know about. They all came in at about the same time pre-man on this planet, and they came from future, where they basically came. They weren't built necessarily here. The pyramids weren't like brought up stone by stone by the Hebrews. It was created almost in a blink of an eye, where it just portaled there, and so this applied to a lot of different things. It started bringing the puzzle together about what the agenda was from a certain side of the aliens that were putting all these clues and breadcrumbs in place. Why they had all these messages in the pyramid for us to discover and be able to interpret, almost like a time capsule that unlocks in key stages that we can open up a new layer of this message as technology progresses or as human understanding moves to that next level. Then we can say, oh, that's what that was that we discovered 300 years ago.
All those records that were left in the Library of Alexandria and with the Mayans and all over the world that have been destroyed by more current cultures, there was a plan for mankind to ascend. And the tablets that Hermes and Thoth, the same guy, he didn't actually reincarnate. It was the same guy through all that time. He was immortal. And he was very in love with the human race. And he wanted to help the human race. But then something bad happened to him. And he became our enemy. And that's one of the reasons we've suffered so much. And so, like biblical stories,
I don't know.
but you don't want to call it an alien. You don't want to call it an angel. It's an entity, okay? So that's just my little.
Thank you. I like moments of inspiration. Let Alan finish the thought.
Yeah. So in the reading of the Emerald Tablets, there's a lot of reference to man with a capital M. And there's a lot. You got to pay attention to the capital letters within it, because it alternates depending on what the meaning is, and it jumps around in time, whether it's talking about future past participle or past present now, or all these things. That's one of the reasons why it makes it hard to read. But what it was getting at is that we are the gods, that we're the creators, that we were the ones that when we come into our power, we're man with the big M. That all the angels and all the aliens and demons bow down to us. They're afraid of big man, but little man, they're just kind of annoying to them. So what the tablet was written for by Thoth supposedly is that he, in that 40,000 years later, existed in a place where humans didn't do so good. There was in a parallel timeline where they didn't reach their spiritual evolution in time, where they didn't learn their lessons, they didn't grow, and all this bad thing happened, and future human ended up getting in a heap of trouble, and they wasted all this time, centuries, when man could have been doing great things, and said they were stifled. So they created an alternate timeline to send these tools out to help us grow to better, and in that way it is self-serving, because them as us in future benefit from us growing right now, because then in their timeline they're in that next stage.
Great. Thank you. It's great, you to have these different answers. Then so we're getting. That's why I like a diverse panel. Where I work for the state, and they have a grid system, alphabet and then numbers this way. So it's the city, I live, it's this number or that number. Well, M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. And they don't say it's on M Street. They call it Capitol. And 13 is a symbolic world, yes. And there's no mistake, because my boss is in room 555. And it was difficult to get the numbers that way. So numbers are important. Here's an easier question. Well, not really. I like to throw a little. There's always some kind of. But why is the government, if there are, we've all come to the conclusion, no doubt about it. There's something's going on that are non-human. Why is the government not telling us? Why do you think the government isn't telling us? Okay, that's a kind of, let's see what answers.
Control.
Okay. Yeah,
it's all about control.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. And actually, the ones that they fear the most are us, the ones that are awakening, because we can tip that scale, as I said previously. They fear us. They fear us gaining the knowledge, so they lose the control. That's why they're scrambling so much right now, too, because they know. The mice running on the sinking ship. As the more that have awakening, the more we get our power back, the less control that they can have over us. As long as we keep doing stuff like this and sharing the information and the knowledge and helping other people awaken, then yeah, they're going to lose power. Mm-hmm. Because the only reason they can keep in power is by all their propaganda to hold us in this state of fear and to believe all that. Programming, fear, it's been going on for thousands of years.
Intimidation.
Oh, yeah.
Keeping that low fear vibration.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I think that there was a agreement with the gray extraterrestrials back in the 40s. I think that we traded. The original agreement was
Grayson? Grayada, that's right.
250,000 Americans for technology. Most of the original abductees were GIs, they were generally enlisted military personnel, so that the government could dual track them. So as they allowed 250,000 people to be abducted, they knew exactly which 250. They had their social security numbers. They could track them for the rest of their lives. They would be able to follow them. The biggest is fear. That's why they're not telling us. We were screwed over on the contract, and they took as many people as they wanted whenever they wanted. They have the technology to obliterate us, and we know that. The United States government isn't the most powerful force on the planet. The extraterrestrials are. And they realize that. They know that they can shut down our nuclear silos. They know that we know that they have enormous technical power. That's the deal. That's why any of the information is classified, because it's considered a threat. When you can't tell somebody about the extraterrestrial presence, it's because it's national security. If it's national security, that simply implies then they're a threat. Otherwise, what is there to secure? So I think that it's fear. They have now been forced into cooperating with these particular extraterrestrials, and we're not quite sure how to get out of that agreement right now. So it's very important that we are capable of coming into our power and understanding exactly what we're capable of in a very loving, peaceful way. I mean, true power doesn't need to be thrown all over the place. It's a very calm, strong presence, and it doesn't need to be threatening in any way. So I think that if we can move in that area, then we can diminish their threat. I think it's because they're a threat.
Thank you. It's your show.
No, it's your.
It's my panel. Thank you. My sweat. It's your money. Thank you. What are you inspired? I'm curious what you inspired to say.
Going to sit down between them. With permission. I just cannot be on that side of it.
I know how I know.
This panel is now 5D, and we are 7.
Did you want to comment on the stage before? Okay, you sit here. Thank you. Thank you, Jose. Please carry on. Thank you, Jose.
So the governments don't know any better than we do. They don't know any better than we do. What happens is when you think you know, then you leave room for not knowing. When you believe something, you're still leaving room for not knowing. When you say you know, and I know, the governments don't know better than we do. The reason why this happened is when they did the contracts in the 40s, they thought the great ones were the only space race. So they were wrong. Now they are as doubtless as ever. That is why they gave us the internet through, I think it was Al Gore that they blame on releasing the internet to the world.
Or Clinton.
One of them. So now, instead of the government only being the only ones doing research, we have 8 billion people doing research. We have 8 billion people doing panels. Among us, someone is going to bring more updated truth. That's why the internet is on. That's why your fingerprints go here every time. Control is true. Control is truth. They have us under control. So I'm here to plead everyone to use misinformation as much as you can. When you tap into something that you know is going to help humanity, it needs to be among the people, not the governments. Misinformation is the name of the game they're playing, and we are better at it. They don't know. We do.
Yes, I work for misinformation.
Okay, so why is the government doing it? Did anyone see my lecture here earlier today? Yeah, a few of you. So in the lecture, I explained one of the 3 worlds we need to be aware of as a human being on this planet is the fictitious public world that's created by our corporate government. If you guys study law, all corporations are legal fictions. And so maybe many of you have businesses, you have to file a fictitious business statement. That's you registering into this public. And so basically, long story short, what the public is, all capital letters. That's called a capronym. When you take a word and then put all capital letters in it, changes the meaning of it. So whenever you see the all capital letters, you're looking at what's known as the public. Remember public policy in 1933? Sounds like it's for everybody. What?
And contract law.
Right. Okay. So in HJR 192 in 1933, it's called public policy, and that removes all the gold. Well, the title would imply that it's for all the people, right? We're all the public, right? We're part of the public. Well, that's not what they mean by it. It's for them. They remove the gold and instill debt notes, okay? It's a form of control. But why are they doing this, okay? It's control for why? Is it just a bunch of greedy humans that want to hoard wealth? I think that's at least part of it. But my contention is, as I explained in my talk earlier, that at this stage, the government or the public is now animated. It's got its own consciousness. And so when government employees plug into their offices, they're no longer themselves. They literally, by definition, have a cloak, or they take on a different persona. And that's what happens in magic. When you do ritual, you take on a different persona in order to manifest. And so the government at this stage is ruled by an artificial intelligence, in my opinion. And I think that possibly is Alice, the computer that's running CERN right now. Arguably, there's others, right? I'll just go with Alice for now. And I think the Pope is the head of the humans on Earth inside what I call the beast, the whole sum total of all of the corporations put together. You got the banking industry, the medical industry, the insurance industry, all the stuff. DMV, right? You get your license, all cap named, right? They literally have set up accounts for us. Gesundheit, young lady. They've set accounts up for us all when we're born. It's called the birth certificate. It's a receipt. We're chattel, okay, in this public world. But it's really just an offer to contract. If we understand that, we can reclaim our de jure status in our republic, okay? So if a person plugs into an office, they're towing the line of another consciousness at that stage. And they're taking a paycheck because they have a family, right? And I know in modern Western society, they sure make us guys feel guilty when we don't take care of our family. So they like guilt us into having to go to work. Who's the number one employer in the United States right now? The government, okay? So by definition, you could say we're communist already if the government employs everybody, okay? And they're taking over industries. They call it regulation, but really you can look at it from a different standpoint. So what this boils down to for me is that the Pope is at the head of the beast. He's the leader on earth. He holds the highest office. He himself is towing the line of something else. I'll just leave you with this. Father Malachi Martin wrote Windswept House. You guys familiar with Father Malachi Martin? Had some epic Art Bell shows back in the 90s, early 2000s maybe. I forget when he died. They probably killed him. But he said on one of those shows that in March of 1963, they actually had a Lucifer enthronement ceremony at the Vatican. So, what's that tell you? Their basement,
The manifesto.
That's a great point. Their basement is the largest vault of UFO information on the planet, supposedly.
Yep.
Okay, they've known about what's going on for a long time, and this is a big setup. Okay, we're being set up right now by that big douche. Yeah, I could talk for hours about that whole thing. You know, there's no Satanism really. It's just reptilians doing it. Okay, it's how they feed. Okay, we're the cattle, and that's how they feed. But again, look, it's us. We're the ones. Okay, let's take the bull by the horns, get our house in order, and whip some butt. I mean, you guys are going to get tired of hearing me say that, but that's really what we have to do. It's really simple.
Again, taking your power back.
Exactly. So the way I can approach the question of why our government is not wanting us to know.
Yeah, why don't they want to tell us?
Looking at the Nazis in history, I think is the best way to look at it, where they were they were just obsessed with the aliens, where they had channelers on their, employed by them, these women with beautiful long hair that would go into trance and communicate, getting the full plans for all their, for creating weapons and, anti-gravity devices, spaceships, and, Nazi government wanted to use this as their power. This is their wand of power that they could rule over the world and take control over all of us, pitiful humans. And that was their motivation, not too far away from what the United States motivation is with them. So the more power, understanding that they had, the more of a deal that they make with them to exchange information and technology for something I don't even want to think about what they're getting in return from those people in power. What they're sacrificing on the altar to these, to these demonic kind of aliens, what their agenda is. So the Nazis were using it for control. They would not share their stuff with the people. They were doing this for the army, for their own research, for time control. They figured out how to jump back in time and mess with some periods. They use some alien technology to make a chronovision, where they can get a portal window through time to be able to see what occurred at certain historic periods, and that's power. I mean, that has a lot of control about knowing what happened at the Gettysburg Address, what happened at in 600 BC at certain key moments, where the Nazis had this and the United States has this now too. They've been using it for quite some time. And, the reason why they don't want public to know is because then it's no longer occult knowledge when it's public. They can't use that for their favor or against us when it becomes public domain. So they're grasping on, and they know that that humans are coming into their place of power, and they can't hold on to that for too much longer, and they're scrambling. They're scared. They don't want us to take away their fun toys and the Masonic library information, for example. The Masons holding, having like knowledge houses of crazy information about sacred geometry, about genetics, that they kept for the Masonic order only, within the high people in the ranks that they trusted. And pretty much all those books have become public domain now, for the people that care to find it. Not all of it. But that's what gave the Masons the power back then, is having all this information about who knows what that the public shouldn't have known about. Well, maybe should have, but the public might have abused it back then too, just as much as they did.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. That excellent, Alan. All the answers really from different areas and aspects, different tangents. I was expecting more of an answer. Well, I got the answer I wanted from Mark. It was about control, but how? And I was thinking about free energy. They don't want us to know about free energy because they're making money. That's how the Bush family made their millions, on oil. We don't need oil. There's cosmic and telluric forces, and there's many energy machines that in Switzerland. There's a city that runs is free energy, and there's many ways. I don't like the wind power because they generate a wave that's very harmful. They get a lot of nosebleeds and cancer, the people who live in the neighborhoods, and then so control, and then also electricity and not letting us know. I was thinking more of the terms of they don't want us to know about our true history of where we come from and who we are. And then I was also expecting more, I guess, gas and energy, I guess electricity, because of free electricity and gas, I guess. But, yes, we're the best slaves think they're free, and we are a slave race. But I mean that in a good way, because, we're going to overcome this, and I don't want to say, yesterday I was misunderstood and that everything is gloom and doom. No, I'm the most uplifting, happy person, and I'm here to tell you we're going to win. We've already won. Okay, they're on the way out. Okay, so don't mistake me for being doom and gloom. Okay, yeah, I came here to kick butt. Okay, so David entered late. Would you like to answer this question also? The question? Well, the question is, why is the government? Why doesn't the government not say anything? Why don't you think they want to know? And I gave you the answers, but what do you want to say?
Well, I was 20 years ago. We started as kids learning about ufology, and after 20 years, I believe government is right. They shouldn't bring it up with public because public will, their psyche will crash. We are not public. We are researchers. You guys are higher echelon in consciousness. Your mind has the synapses to connect. I've been talking to many people outside all these years. Their brain cannot, the neurons are missing to understand from A to B to Z. So their mind gets stuck. And if by any chance ever they see a craft coming and extraterrestrial coming to talk to them, they might melt, meaning their consciousness, they might just fall apart. And a lot of people do. That's why they're not ready. The ones who are ready, like us, we are contacting and going and coming and other planets. A lot of people doing that through gates. They don't need a UFO anymore. The time travelers, plus the gates they had in Iraq, in Russia, they're in Iran. That's why they're attacking those countries. Or in Peru, in Marcahuasi, somebody offered me, do you want to pass through the gate, come back and go see? I said, I have family. I don't want to, at this time, do that kind of risk. But, it's your call. You go, you go. I mean, I don't think anybody want to come back once you see the other side of other planets, other extraterrestrials, because I've been contacted during daily life. Suddenly they will take my mind and show me things on other planets and stuff that it's amazing. You will never even imagine there is such things. There is such architectural cities that extraterrestrials have built, and they take you with the ship showing you, because if you wish, they will show you. If you really, out of your heart, you want to contact, because this has been our forefront, our deeply, in 20 years, he knows, we really want to make a contact, and every angle we go, they will block us. They will delete things. They will mock us by phone calls and emails and you guys are facing the shadow groups. The government is not involved in this stuff. There are private corporations who own things. For example, let's say Halliburton. Halliburton would do million other things, or Monsanto, other than their normal business. It could be oil company who is doing a UFO research. We found out some corporations, they have money, power, that they can buy governments. And they have, you want examples, we can talk about it later. It's not to do with this panel. So those big corporations have CEOs that their brains works a higher echelon that government. We're not talking about government. Government is an executive order. They're just doing their job. They're going to sign here the executive orders. So they're doing policing the world, or you guys, or whatever. So going back to the contact, I don't think it should be a mass contact at this time, and it will melt people's brains, especially church people. They will fall to pieces, and it will be very devastating to millions of people. Well, I think the best way, again, is through ascended masters, or not faking a Jesus return, but I'm saying that they're planning things. But if one entity comes, for example, as a master or ascended master, or somehow that people can relate, like John the Baptist, or suddenly come in the craft on the Jerusalem. That's actually, it's a prophecy that Mahdi, 12 Imam of Shia, and Jesus, they will land at the same time on the rock of Jerusalem. So if anything like that, and it's not fake. If anything like that,
they just made that disclosure that Jesus was a divine space being.
So if anything like that, humans can accept it to their heart, but otherwise it will crash their consciousness.
You know, you're psychic, Saeed, because that was my last question, and you know, that's exactly what do you think will happen after the first official contact with the media and the public opinion. So you hit the, you know, you threw up osmosis, or because we're on the same brainwave, you got the same last question. But what do you think will happen to the public? Well, how will the public react? Okay, how do you think they will react? We would say, okay, we've been lying to you. We admit it. There are UFOs. Where there are many planets, and you know, you think there's going to be world hysteria? You know, oh, I can't handle it. You know,
I don't think there'll be world hysteria, because I think the majority.
Yeah.
I think the majority
Exactly.
already believe, and I think that
Exactly.
that poll has already been taken.
Right, more than God.
The majority will believe, and I think you know, for the some who that laugh and don't believe, yeah, they'll be afraid, and then they'll get pissed. Because they'll realize that they have been duped. I think fear will set in, but I think the fear will be very short-lived.
Well, that's the three
You
stages.
know,
of
some people
truth.
melt when maybe that was their destiny. They were supposed to
Yeah.
melt. Let them melt. But I think, right?
Exactly.
But
Mark, one thing. It's people know there is a UFO, but it's different when an alien lands and walks towards you and talks to you.
I think if it happens, it's not going to be that kind of scenario, because they know. They don't want to come here and introduce world fear. And that's why it hasn't happened. They understand that. And so that's why it really hasn't happened. And also, you know, I think that it also forming an alliance with Inner Earth, because Inner Earth is probably going to do the simultaneous, or maybe that's where the real shift happens. Well, they're not aliens. They're us. But
We're the aliens.
if it came from there first, would it be less fearful for the people than seeing crafts coming from the sky? But I think the majority of people are ready for this, because everybody's already questioning it. Of course they are.
Well, what do you think about the?
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you done?
No.
Last sentence. Last sentence, because we have 10 minutes to 9. I want to keep on track.
Yeah.
No, my last sentence is I believe that the world is ready for it. I truly do, and I think that that some people will be fearful, but I think it'll be very short-lived if it is, because it'll come from anger, and then they'll realize that these are peaceful beings, and especially if they also get reconnected with Earth, they realize that they are just like us, and then the whole resonance of the heart love energy is going to be coming from these beings as well, which will help people ease into this, because all of us light workers are here to do this. This is our job.
Thank you very much. Laurie?
I think we can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I think that if somebody announced that there is an extraterrestrial presence, or if they made themselves known, there is a difference actually between seeing a UFO and then having an extraterrestrial approach you. It's shocking. Even if you think you're psychologically prepared, it's still shocking. And you may have a little bit of fear. However, you move through that really quick. And I think people are generally more curious than fear-based. And at this time in history, it is about answering that question. Can we handle it? Come on, it's only a reality adjustment. Right now, we're maladjusted in our thought processes, thinking that there couldn't be all of these other beings and entities. That's a maladjustment. And in fact, it's rather egotistical to think that we might be the only beings out there. Or if they did come now, we're so powerful, we're the only ones, but yet somebody else shows up and now we're scared to death and our consciousness is going to melt. I think not. I think that through the transition period, there's enough people on place in the planet to make the transition as smooth as possible. For those psyches that are negatively impacted, they can be repaired. Not everybody is going to move at the same time. There is an evolutionary scale as we ascend through it, and it's completely appropriate for it to happen, and I do believe that we can handle it. Fear not.
When we think of handling it, of course we can, because we are already here. Half of the population is already alien and the walking human. So that's why we see the intergalactic time travelers coming in as the new children. They have enormous high IQ. They have everything. They know everything that we took 50, 60 years to learn. They're coming already with a knowing. So of course we can handle it. But we are living in a period that we have three different worlds. The collapsing world that ended in 2012, that's still collapsing. That's fear-based, and that's where a lot of people are still fearing death. That's why they couldn't be able to handle it. Us, we acknowledge that there is no death. We are intergalactic time travelers. We are born, we have body, soul, and spirit. When we pass, our body and our soul recycle in this planet, but our spirit moves on. We go to different realms, we go to different planets. We are the aliens. So the transitional world started in December 22nd of 2012. We're still jumping in between realities. We still have friends fighting battles in Syria. We still have friends getting their heads cut off by the ISIS. We still have human trafficking in Mexico. And right here in Los Angeles and across the world, we have a very epidemic trouble with human trafficking. That is all collapsing. It's going to stay in that third dimensional world that you talk about. It's all gone. We are the lights jumping in between the two worlds. And then we are co-creating the new world. Once that 2012 world is all gone, the transitional world, us, we are co-creating, all of us, a new beautiful world where there will be intergalactic beings walking among us. That is why we are working for intergalactic peace already. Three worlds, fear not death, we can handle it.
Thank you.
Yeah, fear is the central issue. Really, there's two emotions. There's love and there's fear. And all the good emotions stem down from love and all the negative ones stem from fear. Excuse me. And so I don't think we need to worry about the ETs or how people are going to react to the ETs. I think people are going to realize that our government's been lying to us for a long time, and they're going to get really pissed off. And that's why they're their FEMA stuff is coming around. That's
They
why
are
they've
scared.
gotten thousands of body bags, because they're expecting, when you're mean to somebody, you know to expect something coming back, right? And they're preparing for it. And that's the real issue. I think, even in the West, even in America, really, United States, we're the least ready as a population, I think. Most of the other countries of the world, they're already divulging their stuff. The countries in the West, the indigenous cultures, they've always been ready. There's a constant relationship between the above and below. And so for me, it's just like prepare yourself, because people are going to get really pissed. They're not going to know how to act out, and they're probably going to hurt your neighbors, because they don't know themselves. They don't know what's really going on. So the more we can cultivate love, okay, which cultivates peace and happiness and joy and all that good stuff, that's really the only solution, okay? We need the truth. We need it now. We can't worry about how people are going to react, because this is part of our legacy, this knowledge. We need it now, despite the reaction, okay? And when there's a reaction, what do you do with a little kid? You let them act it out, and when they're calm, then you reapproach it, okay? So I think that's what humanity's in its infancy. It's ready to grow up now. There may be a little tussle, but we're going to get there, And so just get a hold of your fear. Just really quickly, I had a few Bigfoot experiences with Kiwani lapsaritis up in central Washington. And after 3 summers, three times each summer, 3 nights, 9 nights total, I realized that these Sasquatch were teaching me how not to be afraid of them by like startling me in my tent, like just flicking a stick or a fingernail on the top of my tent, like this, little stuff like that. Or I'd walk out of Kiwani's house after watching a nice DVD or something with him, and it's late, it's time for me to go to my tent, and I walk out the door, and there's this huge explosion. It's like, oh my God, it sounded like a plane just crashed in his front yard. They're putting the sounds in my head, and they're testing me. That's what I figured out. And wow, what an experience this was. So, but what they showed me was that even though I thought I was, right, I thought I knew, right, I thought that I was well-adjusted and emotionally balanced. Turns out I had all kinds of fear in me still. Fear of being pulled over by cops, fear of not paying my bills, fear people maybe aren't going to like me, on and on and on and on, right? So my experience with them really showed me how fear is the crux of our issue, really. It's really the only thing holding us back.
Yeah, fear of truth. Excellent answer, bullseye. Because the truth goes through 3 stages. It's ignored, and then they get pissed off and laugh at it, or then you become enlightened. So, and then before, like I wanted to make a comment about what Jose said. Yes, they show us on TV their beheadings, but they're not true. And ISIS is Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, and all the beheadings are fake. There's no beheadings. There's no shootouts. It's all false flag operations. Anybody want to come to me, I'll give you the information. I don't want to argue with you. I'll just give you the answer and show you what to do, okay? Look, it's all fake. So it's all fear-based, trying to, who owns the news? Who's telling you? I'll show you every corporation who owns the news by the same 1%. How is that possible? 1% of the people that own 100% of the news in the media. Yes. 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 Thank you. Let's hear Alan's answer so we can get on. It's almost 9 o'clock, 1 minute. So thank you for your short answer, Alan.
Yeah. I'll try to speak fast.
Well, it's okay.
So one of the people that I became addicted to is Bashar, who describes himself as an ambassador that's actually helped out a lot of different civilizations in the past to be prepared for first contact, where they send him out as the agent to help answer the people's questions, introduce them little by little to what's going on in the rest of the universe. And across the galaxy, it's just kind of easing the blow, so when that inevitable time comes, people like Bashar, Esther Hicks, except Ion, prepares us for seeing what's to come, and to help us grow into it without panicking and going into this like, oh my God, the end is near. It's like the movie where we all died. So a great person that I love is Drumbalo Melchizedek. I found a random video on YouTube that like barely anybody even watched that was describing his being called in by this intra-terrestrial species that lives in this volcano around Mexico area underground that float around in crystals on top of the lava surface, something like that. And apparently, what these things are is humans from the past that took a different evolutionary pathway than we did, where they became more ascended and realized that they didn't even need bodies anymore. So there were us, like in the prehistoric times, as an offshoot that evolved in crystals on this planet that have been living amongst us since the very beginning. So they decided that they would be the best ones to bring first contact. That the first contact is supposedly going to come from them. So these beings ushered Drumvalo Melchizedek and 99 other people to this particular place that he hand chose them to be welcomed by this non-physical being that brought them basically into the earth towards the center, where they then entered a portal that went into this whole other universe from the inside to the out, and traveled around, and they gave him full explanation about what's really going on out there that I can't describe in 1 minute. But that's why I think that we can be prepared, and they're going to go as gentle as possible. And for the people that are in the know, it's going to be no problem. For the other people that can't handle it, let them not handle it and let them panic and commit suicide if that's what they need to do.
Thank you, Ellen. Final comment by Laurie.
I'd like to say one other thing. Thanks, Eric. Never underestimate the human spirit. We have the ability to do great things. We have the ability to move forward. And as we move through this transition period, just really allow it to be our finest step. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Before you go, I want to make a few comments, and I have to give a disclaimer because I feel like, I should warn you that there's a 60,000-year-old skull here. And when I met this skull, he warned me that I was going to be tired later. And we did the fire ceremony at Holly's house and Mark's house with Jose. And after we did it, they said it was going to rain in 3 days and I would be really tired for a couple days. 3 days also, I'd be really tired. And he said that the crystal skull would be downloading information to me. So Sunday, I went home, forgot all about it. Monday, I went to work for the reptilians. And then when I got home, I got off at 4, I got home. I just lay down for a little bit. I was a little tired. I rested on my bed. I closed my eyes just for a second. And I woke up after midnight. I said, holy shit, I haven't eaten dinner. I haven't walked the dogs. I take the dogs to the river every day. And I said, oh my God, Jose was right. I fell asleep. So I walked the dogs for an hour, and I cut their walk short, and because they're supposed to get a long walk. And the next day, same thing happened again. Went home Tuesday, closed my eyes for just a second, and I kept sleeping. Well, let me tell you, Wednesday, I didn't fall asleep, but it rained on Wednesday. There was no forecast for rain. We did a fire ceremony, and it rained on Wednesday. No forecast. It poured all day. Okay, then, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. So beware. If you get tired, that's it. Yes. Oh, no, that's right. That's what I was going to say. I just had to give you the disclaimer. But I have information. That's what this hand was for. Spiritual Transmission Healing Music by Edwig. And, yeah, Edwin? Excellent. Thank you for coming. Are these your keyboards? Excellent. 9 to 9:30. And then 9:30 we'll have more beautiful music from Juliana Oka. Pardon me? Violin, yes. And that's 9:30 to 10. And 10 to 11 we'll have techno rock music if you want to dance a little. Thank you. Thank you, panel. Yes, you may exit. Thank you. Everybody, thank you.
Can I say one thing? Can I?
It's on streaming. What do you want to say?
I wanted to say, this little joke.